Look, if you're not using a cover letter, you have one of three reasons. A, you're an idiot. B, you're lazy. Or C, you're an idiot and you're lazy. I'm Dr. Samuel J., and this is the Arbitrage. Today, I want to talk to you about cover letters because aside from your resume, your cover letter is going to be the most important component of your job application materials. And that includes, that is everybody, whether you're an entry-level job seeker or you are a CEO or an upper-level executive who's just looking for a career pivot. So that cover letter is integral to the success of you applying to whatever job that you would like to get, and obviously getting an interview and starting those kind of gears moving forward in order to get yourself that position. So what I want to do today is I want to talk a little bit about cover letters, their general importance, and then I just want to walk you through step by step, kind of top to bottom, some of the important components of your cover letters. That way, when you do put that out there with your job application materials, that you have the best chance of getting that job. So to begin with, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I've spent a lot of time this week kind of sifting through applications for affiliate faculty members. So the position that I hold as an instructor, as a professor, is obviously an assistant professor, but I'm also coordinator of the affiliate faculty members, which basically means I hire and manage all of the part-time instructors at my institution. So this past week, I spent a lot of time going through applications, and I was shocked by the amount of people who did not include a cover letter with their application. They had a resume in there, they had a CV, which is a curriculum vitae, which is the more common kind of a timeline or documentation of your professional career in academia, and they had maybe transcripts. But for the most part, so many of them did not have cover letters. And to me, that is a wasted opportunity for you to really add some personality to your resume, add some personality to your job application, and it's the one thing when the playing field is even in terms of resumes that is going to put you above the other people who are your competition, in that hiring pool. And so you have to have that cover letter. It's a must. If it's not required, I would suggest that you take the time to write a cover letter and include it if you're given the opportunity when you apply to that job to add additional materials. Okay, so cover letter, it's a must. So what does it look like? To begin with, I like to have a cover letter and a template for a cover letter that matches the template that I use for a resume. So for example, I've got kind of a fancy artistic resume that I use for some clients, and it's got a blue header, and it's kind of organized with some messing around with the margins a little bit, but it looks nice. And so what I do is I take the top of that, and that includes the name, the address of the client, and I just create a new document from that header. There are multiple ways to do that in Microsoft Word. I am not a whiz with Word, so I just copy and paste it. I've seen other folks, create a template and save that template. You can save a letterhead template. Feel free to do that as well. But I think it just adds consistency. It adds a shared look across those documents, and I think it looks really sharp. I think if you can show that you're able to, if you're showing just not necessarily creativity, but you're exhibiting an interest in the job. You're showing an investment. You're willing to take the time to do that. I think that's it's not going to hurt you when you apply to that job. So there you go. Match those templates. Match your fonts as well. All right. So in the body of the cover letter, I do suggest that folks match the font with their resume. I think that looks nice. Again, it's consistency. It's look, it's feel, but it's also, showing whoever is reading through that you've taken the time, the extra effort to make those things match up. All right, so there's the template. The next thing is the address. I've seen, those traditional old school cover letters that have the address of the organization to which you're applying. I think that the vast majority of us have realized that most job applications are submitted online these days, or even via email, I suppose. And oftentimes, at least in the jobs that I've looked through, you don't know what address you're actually sending it to. You have an email address, and that is about it. And so for that reason, I think putting the address of the company, the organization to which you're applying is no longer a necessity. Now, like I said last week with the resume, I do think you should have your address on the top of your resume and your cover letter. And while, maybe you don't want your full address, which is totally fine, what I've seen recently is just people putting the city where they exist, right, where they live, where they reside. And so what that means is if Denver, Colorado, or Spokane, Washington, or Iowa City, Iowa, wherever you have it, wherever you live, wherever you exist, as I had said, as I had kind of misworded earlier. It's kind of a weird word, but to include there. But wherever you live, put that city on your resume and on your cover letter, but forget the address of the employer whom you're applying to. Okay, so there's the third component that I kind of wrote there. The fourth thing is greeting. I think your traditional greeting is, to whom it may concern. People tend to like that in various industries. I think that a lot of the folks who are listening to this podcast now or watching this video, this live stream, I think you're probably going to apply to an industry that is much different than that. I think to whom it may concern might be a little bit more buttoned up than what they desire. And so, Dear Hiring Manager is really a good option. In the past, I have used, Dear Search Committee, Dear Search Committee Chair. If you're in academia, if there's a committee that's being put together to hire you for this position, then, Dear Committee Members. And this is the kind of stuff that you'll be able to really pull from the job application materials, the job call itself. And so as you're looking through the details of that job call, look to see, is there a person who is kind of running the show? And oftentimes maybe that's an HR director. In my line of work, it's a professor who is at the head of a committee, right? So, Dear Dr. J and fellow search committee members would be how I might start a cover letter within my field. But I think within all other fields, make sure that the tone that you set with your greeting matches the audience that you're going to reach with that cover letter. And that audience is probably going to be people that buy into or exist within a culture of the organization that you're applying to. And so what I mean by that is, if you're applying to a tech firm and that tech firm is known to be rather laid back, I think something as buttoned up as to whom it may concern is going to be problematic, because it may make you seem a little bit dated. It may make you seem a little bit out of things, right? And that's not going to be attractive, I would assume, to a lot of the people who are sifting through those resumes and cover letters. Okay, your introduction. I do tend to stick with a pretty typical introduction. And for in general, my cover letters are relatively traditional in the sense that I don't have a lot of creative personal narratives weaved in there. I think for the vast majority of jobs, the vast majority of industries, folks don't necessarily want to see that. Yes, they want to see some personality, but I think they're more interested in the kind of argument that you're making in favor of yourself. And I'll get to that in a moment in what I'm talking about in terms of argument. But, I was looking at somebody's cover letter the other day, and it was to the effect of, I really discovered my journey for education when I was 12 and yada, yada, yada. I'm not sure the value of that in a cover letter. That's the kind of stuff that I would certainly save for an interview, because that's when you're really able to accentuate that anecdotal evidence, those stories that are going to help boost your cause. But for the cover letter, you're just, again, trying to build an argument in favor of yourself. So that introduction, what I tend to do is, please accept this cover letter along with the included resume or CV, if you have it, as my application for the name of job position, right? So name of job, you kind of plug in what the name of the job is. That's what you're going to get from the job call or the job description. And then with name of company, period, right? So the name of company right there, I don't know, Rockwell Collins, Monsanto, University of Texas. Make sure that you show that you've done enough work to get the exact title of the job to which you're applying and the employer. I know that that a lot of industries will want to know where you found that job, and so you may have to add, which I discovered at so-and-so and so-and-so, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sorry that I keep saying yada, yada, yada. It reminds me immediately of the Seinfeld episode in which I believe George keeps saying that. But please accept this cover letter along with the included resume as my application for the assistant professor position at the University of Washington, which I discovered on the Communication Studies listserv. Okay. That way, in that particular industry, and this is usually the case for those kind of higher up positions, middle to upper management and above that, they're going to want to know where you discovered the job. And this is actually too where you can kind of name drop a little bit or show an awareness of the industry of the profession that could add some points, add some value to you. And so, for example, which I discovered from a friend, Dr. Billie Jean Williams, who is a professor in your department. That way, I'm immediately establishing that personal connection. It's professional network. Those kinds of things can be extremely valuable for you to get that job. So do consider that in your introduction. And then from there, I really like to kind of make a claim. So I'm a professor of rhetoric and argumentation. And so I think about these kinds of things in terms of arguments. I'm going to make a claim, and then I'm going to provide evidence that supports that claim. And then I'm going to, in my conclusion, provide a conclusion, right, or a wrap up in which I substantiate or again, kind of clarify the claim that I had made and affirm again why it is true. I don't mean to get too academically jargony there, but the simplest way to really put it is don't just say something, but provide the evidence to prove it. And so the body of your cover letter is going to be where you have that evidence to prove it. And so after I have that first sentence introduction, in which I say, please accept this cover letter. Okay. Then I say something to the effect of, considering my experience in human resources, my ability to evaluate and improve processes, and my communication skills, I believe that I would be a valuable addition to your organization. So what I have right there is I have these three components, right? I have HR experience or nursing experience or teaching experience, whatever industry you're getting into, whatever thing you want to highlight, that's first and foremost. And then I want to talk, according to the job call, the job description, what's another valuable component that I need to bring to the table? In this case, I had said, process improvement, performance improvement, and a lot, that's just kind of project management stuff. Being able to look at systems, at processes, at procedures within an organization. And that can be hiring and firing processes. That can be onboarding processes. That can be how patients are taken in processes. And evaluate where they go wrong or where efficiency could be added, right? That is in itself a good skill. But anyhow, I'm adding that. Okay, so being able to evaluate and improve processes. And then communication skills, right? So I have my three things there. I have experience, I have that strength in evaluating processes, and then I have communication, my three strengths that I really want to highlight, right, to kind of drive things home. And I just went with 3. You can go with 4, 5, but much like the resume I talked about in a previous episode, the cover letter needs to be 1 page. I think that in academia, yes, we probably get 2 pages. I think that's a consensus. It's just hard to squeeze everything into 1 page because we have to cover a lot of ground. But in the world outside of academia is an entirely different animal. And so 1 page. If you need to squeeze more stuff in there, change your font. Nothing below 11, but change your font, change your margins, change the kind of font that you're using, but keep it at 1 page. I would definitely say keep it at 1 page. So I have these 3 things. All right. I've said that these three things will allow me to be a valuable addition to your organization. Now I have to prove that I actually have those 3 things. So if I say that I have a lot of HR experience, the first paragraph after my introduction needs to be proving that I have a lot of HR experience. And it could be something to the effect of, for the last 25 years, I have worked as an HR director for this organization. In this position, I learned all of the HR procedures, practices, jargon, whatever words, right? Again, I don't have the language, the lexicon that is specific to HR, so I can't speak to that. But I hope you understand kind of what I'm saying here, right? Is speak in that language. But now I'm saying I have to prove that I have HR experience. So I say 25 years I've been here. Prior to that, I did this. Prior to that, I did this. Okay. Then at the end of that, right, end of that paragraph, I'm saying, as you can see, this experience is extensive and would allow me to take on whatever challenges come my way in this new position. So I think this is quality writing no matter what, just doing this. Don't just leave a paragraph dangling, but instead have that closing sentence in which you summarize what you just said, but you summarize it in a way that adds value to you as an employee. As you can see, I have a lot of experience, and that experience is going to allow me to do X, Y, and Z. Now I move on to the next paragraph. And so with that paragraph, let's do something like I had mentioned previously, my process evaluation, my project management, my performance improvement experience. For example, when I was working at Lockheed Martin, I was tasked with improving the mail distribution system. I evaluated how things were going. I found where there were inefficiencies. I implemented changes. And as a result, the system got better. That's one example of how I am good at improving processes. Again, I just said I'm good at improving processes, but I have to prove it, right? That's a subclaim or a sub-argument, but you're still using evidence to prove it. And again, it's just going to bolster that larger argument that is in fact you saying that you should be hired, okay? So that's the second paragraph. Third paragraph, now we're talking about communication skills. I would hammer communication, soft skills home over and over again, no matter what industry you're in. I was just reading an article in Forbes earlier this week about the skills that hiring managers and company CEOs or ownership want. And of course, 5 out of 7 of the things or 8 out of 10 of the things, I don't remember the exact number, had to do with communication. And so being able to communicate, being able to listen, being able to synthesize information and put it back out to the world in ways that are understandable are skills that you cannot teach people. It is stuff that you have to learn through practice. And so if you can bring those skills to the table, you're automatically going to look a lot better as a job applicant because honestly, you just look better as a potential employee. So there I have my setup. Okay, so I've got my introduction. I have my 3 paragraphs of the body. Now the conclusion. Depending on space, I like to add a little summarizing paragraph. As you can see, I have the experience and the skill set that are desired of this position. Now is where you can kind of add the personal touch, which I really like. Again, I want to hammer this home. Do a little research about the organization to which you're applying, and just drop a little bit of awareness in that paragraph. So what I mean by that is, as you can see, I have the experience, the skills necessary to do well in this position. I understand your company's mission is all about educating the public, and I believe that these things that I bring to the table would allow me to effectively add value to that mission. So what I did there is I added a personal touch. Now I can still have a cover letter that I want to use for umpteen different jobs within a given industry, but I'm changing out these little tiny pieces, the little tiny specifics that are going to make whoever is reading that thing feel like, oh, right, Sam, Nancy, June, they did their research about our organization, and that's the kind of person, right? That kind of thoughtfulness, that kind of preparedness is something that we want to bring into the organization. I mean, all of this stuff is about persuasion. You're persuading, you're influencing, you're trying to move this audience. In this case, it's 1, it's 2, it's 10, towards hiring you as a potential employee. And so that's just another way to kind of do that. Now I have that final paragraph, which is, should more information be needed, please feel free to contact me by email at or by phone at. Thank you for your time and consideration. So in that last paragraph, I gave 2 places where I could be reached. It's not necessarily a call to action, because saying, I look forward to hearing from you, I tell clients, don't include that in there. I think it's too pushy. It may not be too pushy to most, but if it's too pushy to the one person who's in charge of the dream job that you want, you're kind of screwed. And so don't even include that. But I think the call to action is, here's my contact information. You know how to reach me. And that can be extremely, extremely valuable. So, make sure you have that in that final paragraph, and make sure you have that nice final touch, which is really, thank you for your time and consideration. Be grateful about the opportunity that somebody even read through that application and that cover letter. And then you of course finish it up sincerely, comma, June Carter. People have asked me, do I sign the document? I think we live in a world now, it's very kind of understood that it's signing a document and then submitting it electronically are not going to be possible, or it's going to be really, really tedious and time consuming. And so it's not what I'm trying to say is it's not expected, but I do think you should have, sincerely space, Samuel MJ, those kinds of things. So that's the cover letter in a nutshell. The things that you want to think about, again, that I think we talked about with the resume episode is really, if you're going to throw out your email address, make sure it's a classy, professional email address. Change things up, figure out a way to get a new Gmail address. Match that template. That's key. But really, the meat of the entire cover letter is your argument. And so let's just remember that you are making an argument and you are in favor of yourself as being hired. And that argument needs to be backed up with evidence. And that evidence is just the little things that you are using to prove that you have the experience or the skills or the immeasurables, that are included in that job call. More so than the resume, I think really reading through that job description, reading through that job call, understanding what is wanted from the person who fills this position is going to be extremely important for your cover letter. So there's there's the kind of one piece that would add to the resume to repeat what I had said, or to hammer home one more time what I'd said there towards the beginning, is if you're given the opportunity to submit a cover letter, whether or not it is required, you should do it. Because if you don't do it, you're just being lazy or you're being dumb. And you don't want to be lazy and dumb. You might be lazy and dumb once you get in the door. You might, pull the wool over their eyes and bullshit them for that long. But let's get you a job first before you show your true colors. Now, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you're a good person and you'll be a fantastic employee. But again, if you're given the opportunity, make sure you include that cover letter, because it is extremely valuable. It is that personal element that will give value to your resume, because on an even playing field in which you're a pool of 100 applicants, 15 of the resumes are fantastic. Of those 15 resumes, it is going to be the people who have a dynamite cover letter that are going to kind of be called in for those interviews. So make sure you have that. If you need any help with these cover letters, or if you need any help with your resumes or your LinkedIn, feel free to give me a shout. You can find all my contact information at jcommunicationsolutions.com, and that's JAY communicationsolutions.com. Everything you need is on there. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me. It's just Dr. Samuel J. You can message me there. I've got a Facebook page. You can hunt it down. I got some Instagram content on there. You can hunt that down as well. But a lot of my communication is on LinkedIn and through my website. And so I hope that this was valuable. If you want more, keep listening to the podcast. You can go to my website and you can sign up for both my blog and my newsletter. But all of these things I put out there because I want to help people get jobs. And that includes people who have jobs and want to change jobs. It includes people who don't have jobs and need jobs. Or it includes people, who just hate their jobs and need to get somewhere else. And so for that audience, I'm here to help you out. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to talking to you next week, or whenever I get a chance to do the next episode. Everybody have a fantastic day.